Are you hearing me?
Okay, guys, one house. One house, please, guys.
All right, guys, my name is Ikechukwu Nwakwue. For those of you who don't know how to pronounce Ikechukwu, it's Ikechukwu, not Ikechukwu, please. You understand? So let's continue. My topic today is Introduction to Ajax and its Alternatives in 2020. So when I was, putting up this topic, some people were saying, guy, Ajax in 2020, people Mr. Bade complained. But I found out that a lot of us don't know what Ajax means. So I'm here to make you understand, because I have a lot to talk about on this Ajax, and also show you some examples of how we can integrate it in our websites. So the things we are going to discuss is what is Ajax, the technologies we are going to use, how Ajax works, the server response from Ajax, the examples like the website I'm going to show you how it works. So advantages and disadvantages and other alternatives to Ajax. Also the conclusion of the web page when you are browsing your website without reloading the whole page. So it is a combination of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and also your PHP. Now, so an example of an application that uses Ajax is the Google Map, the Gmail, the YouTube, and Facebook. You can also include Slack. Slack is an example of a website that uses Ajax too, because I've checked their tools they use Ajax. When you click on hashtag KD network, the page doesn't refresh. It will just bring out the information. Click on hashtag PHP team. It will bring out the information. So that's how Ajax works. It makes a request to the server. Say, get me every details in the general, hashtag general. It will publish it in the screen. So asynchronously means that we are exchanging data to and through your server without refreshing the page. So it allows the user to continue to use the web page as a session of page is being loaded in. So you can make a request to your server and still, make use of the website. Let's say Facebook, for example. Like, you can click on anything. Before the response comes back, you can still like somebody's picture. You can still do other things before the response comes back. So I'm sorry about the image, it's a little bit bronze. So this is an example of asynchronous requests. So let me start with the one at the down. This is asynchronous communication. These two guys are making a request to the server at the same time using the same website. So there will be a time when the server will take too much and say no, before you know it, it will go ballistics. But asynchronous means like you can use it anytime. Like the message, this guy will pass a message to this guy and everything, and to the server without any page loading or something like that. So this is just an example of how asynchronous works, and it uses the Ajax module. Then these are the technologies used by Ajax. The HTML hypertext markup language, that is a markup language to structure your web page. How you want your web page to feel like your header, your footer, your page contents. Then CSS, we then style it up. Then HTML and CSS is used for the server side, the client side, what you see. Then the JavaScript is used to make the request, like we make the request to the PHP server or any server-side language. Then the XML and JSON is is the file format that this Ajax receives. So PHP is a server-side language. Everyone knows almighty PHP. So this is how it works. This is how Ajax works. So when you click like an event, like a button on your website, it creates what we call a SMA HTTP object, which is a built-in object in the browser. It's used to make requests to any server. Then it will send the HTTP request to the internet, and it will receive, the server will receive the request, create a response, and send back to your system. So this is how it was, like asynchronously. You will not even know that something is happening in your website. So then your browser will then process a return using JavaScript and also updating your web page. Let me show you an example of a website that this is actually my portfolio website. I use Ajax to design these websites. So as you can see, forget everything else that's happening. I'm trying to show you the requests I'm making. So this is my way of making a one-page application. Like, I'm going to the About page. I don't want this page to refresh. I want you to get me all the content in the About page. So when I click on the About page, look, watch this place. And the URL didn't change. Watch it. Let me click on my skills page. It's making a call. Then it's getting it to my, I can still do anything else. I can still, do anything as I'm making this call. I can still go back to my home page. So this is an example of an Ajax sponsored website. So let me go on and introduce more. I also added a music player in case you are bored. So in case, what's this? You can click on the music player. It will be, it will be singing for you. So if you don't like the music you play, you have a playlist. And so you have a playlist, and then you can choose on any song you want, So, and you can still download it for those that doesn't have download. You can still download this song in case you don't have it in your system. So another example is my quiz website. Like, I want to make it like a way of, I want to turn it to be used for an interview section. Like, if you send your application, like maybe you are looking for a job, before we call you for an interview, you have to take our quiz test, something like that. So you can start up anyone you want to choose. You can choose the session. But in this case, assuming I'm doing it for the interview question, I will not give them the option. I'll just tell them to start the quiz immediately. So I can click on anyone. Let's go on football because it's my favorite. So before you start this quiz, when I click on this start button, it will make an Ajax request to get me all the questions in my server so that the user will see those questions. So clicking on this, look at it. Immediately the questions are, you understand? And it's timed up. Like, if you didn't answer this question in time, you'll be timed out. So you can, select any one. It will tell you the one that is wrong or right. Go to your next question. Let me answer a correct so that you know. So this one is correct. So this is an example of an Ajax sponsored website. So, okay, let me show you how. So Ajax, now this is an example of SMA HTTP request. Don't worry, I will explain this. It's not cumbersome like that. So the div with an ID of output, this is where I'm going to put all the requests I make from in the server. But how would that happen? I'll have to click on a button. You understand? So when I click on the button make request, I'm the one that called the function make request. The make request function is this. This make request function is this. So I'm calling an output and I'm associating it with a new HTML HTTP request, which is a built-in browser object. It is used to make a server-side connection to this. So I'll say this output dot already changed. Even before I get to this point, because this is like the last step of this thing, I said output dot open. I'm making an open request. Like I'm not connecting yet. The first parameter we say which kind of request am I making? Is it a GET request or a POST request? So as I've made here is a GET request. Then where am I sending it to? Like which URL am I sending it to? I can send it to any like API, any URL that I want. But I chose to, get the content I'm requesting from a test this thing in my browser. So this true means, is this going to be asynchronous or synchronous? Asynchronous means, am I going to get this information and, on the fly without loading the page? Or false, synchronous, am I going to get this information and then the page? Then when you have started this thing, then you send it to the browser. Then this man here, the already state change, will be monitoring everything that is happening to this request. If there is any change in this request, it will be monitoring the request. So I wrote an if statement to show that if this ready state is equals to 4. Now, before 0 means connection not found. Like, let me use for an example, Mr. Mohammed at the gates. When there is no light, you call maybe Mr. Lincoln to go and call Mohammed. When he goes and didn't see it, the request he will bring back is 0 because he didn't see Mr. Mohammed. Then the request number 1 is he has seen Mr. Mohammed. He has seen Mr. Mohammed, maybe shake him. That's request number 1. That's step number 1. Then number 2 is he will then send him the message. Mohammed, go and on gen, or there's no lights. So that's request number 2. Then when what's the name? Mohammed is trying to start the gen. That process is step number 3. So step number 4 means Mohammed have on the gen, meet with Mr. Nenko and say the light is on. So this is what we mean. If the ready state is equals to 4, that is it's ready. The response is ready. And if the status is equals to 200, that means everything is okay. We have status 404, which means page not found, like it didn't find the page. Then status 403, which means there is a problem. Like there's a problem. You are not accepted to make a request to this server. So if the status is 200, and I'm saying documents.getElement by ID. Documents is the HTML document and everything. So the getElement by ID function is a built-in JavaScript function to get any element by its ID. So I'm trying to get this output. I say get element by ID output, and I will say, give me everything, everything that is inside here. I want to put, I will say dot inner HTML, which means I'm trying to get everything inside, I'm trying to get the output, and I want everything that is inside here. So I say document.getElement by ID, the output dot inner HTML. Then I will set it to this response dot the response test that the guy brought from the server. So this is how Ajax works in your background, and you guys will not know that something is happening. So let's move on. So there are 2 ways to make Ajax call. The first one I just explained, using XML HTTP requests, and also jQuery, which is my favorite, which is the one I use to build my website. So I've explained it. It is a traditional way of making HTTP requests without reloading the page. It's an object used to exchange data with the web server. So this one is for jQuery. jQuery is a fast, small, feature-rich JavaScript library. It is also used to make requests to the server. So let me explain. So this is Ajax syntax, jQuery Ajax syntax. It is calling the Ajax function, and it accepts the URL. Where am I saving it to? I say go to the server. I'm sending to the server. And what type of request am I sending? Here now, I'm sending a post request. Now, the data that I want to post in my server, I'll put it here, inside this data. Then, Ajax work with what we call a callback function. Once it's sent to the server, it's received the information from the server immediately. So, this, when it's successful, gets me the response from the server, and you can put it anywhere. So for now, I just log into my Chrome console log. So if there is any error, I will also put it in my Chrome listen. So let me just move faster. The thing about jQuery is that you will find tons of support using jQuery. You can, you don't have to start writing function like I did earlier. I wrote a function to make a request to the server, but Ajax will give you those functions for you to use. What you will just do is just put your URL and everything. It will make this thing for you. So the cons about this is if you already have state management system like front-end framework like React, Vue, Angular, Backbone, and everything, Ajax is not used because they already comes with their own prepared server-side connection, the way they used to make. Like in Vue, you hear component mounted. In React, you hear component did mount, component will mount. What will happen if the component mount? All those type of stuff is in all this framework. So, like a callback is a function passed as a parameter to another function. Like this, the success there, all those success and error, all those things are callback functions. So, advantages of Ajax. Ajax can be refreshed dynamically. The response of interface to the user is faster. It loads faster because the payload is much smaller. The size by which Ajax operates on is smaller. It reduces the demand for bandwidth and allows web application to do much more efficient stuff. So it is integration of browsers. Some browsers are yet to accept Ajax, like was an Internet Explorer and Microsoft Edge. So, and it is hard for the users to bookmark the state of the web. Like the browser cannot actually track your activity, the response you are making. It cannot actually track it to like keep records of what you are doing on your website. And it also discourages using cookies. Cookie is a message sent from the server to your browser. So, three popular Ajax alternatives are the Fetch API, Axios, and Request. So the Fetch API provides an interface of fetching resource. It is familiar to anyone who has used HTTP requests, but the API provides more powerful and flexible features. So let me explain what is happening here. So when you call the fetch function, it will ask you, where are you sending this to? The URL. You put the URL. The method, post or get, you use get. Then fetch works in it receives promises, not callback. It will then give you a promise of what you sent. Like a promise is like what's the name? A response. Then you set that response to any file format you want. You can use response.json, response.test, response.blob. There's one called blob. Then what you now want to do with the data, you have changed the file format. Then you say, I want to console.log it, or I want to put it in any div I want. Then if there is any error, you catch it. That's why we use the catch function. So you catch the error and do whatever you want to do with the error. So the pros of this Fetch API is that it is flexible and easy to use, supported by all modern browsers. It follows request-response approach. But the cons there is it doesn't send cookies too. Likewise, Ajax. The browser cannot actually track your activities. you are not receiving any log messages in your system. And also, cause is disabled. Cause is like a program used to make both requests to the server and process the server, and process the information on the server. Like Laravel has it inbuilt. It uses cause. So the popular ones we use now is Axios. Axios is also a promise-based, unlike Ajax. It works hand in hand, almost the way Fetch API works. So I'm making a GET request. The only difference between this one is that Fetch, you call a fetch function, pass the URL, and tell it the method you want to use. But this one, you do Axios dot. If you want to make a post request, you say Axios.post request or Axios.get request. Then you put your the URL. Then the parameters. If you are trying to get one particular ID from the server, you can put it. But if you don't want to, if you want to get everything, you can remove the parameters there. Then it will return a promise. You consider or log that promise and catch any error. So frameworks like Vue and a runtime application like Node.js also supports this Axios. And you can also set a timeout response. Like you can say, okay, I'm sending this message, but I want it to deliver within a certain number of time. If the request didn't come in this particular number of time, please cancel the request. So it gives you that option, and it automatically transforms it to a JSON data. A JSON data is like in form of an array of information data. So the cons there is like it uses a CDN script, or you can use an NPM, Node Package Manager, to install this application. So whenever they have a bad server or something, your website will not function well. So other alternatives are using frameworks and libraries like the Vue.js. Like I explained, Vue.js gives you tons of functions to use. They mounted what will happen before the request is sent. Component did mount. Component will mount for React. Also, Angular has its own model, and it comes with its own inbuilt stuff. We have the NG model, NG this one, and NG that one. We also have the backbones. All these frameworks and libraries come with their own way of connecting it to the servers, mostly using Axios to do the job for them. So the definition of terms I've used, the XML HTTP request is a built-in object that allows the browser to make HTTP requests in JavaScript. So HTTP is hypertext transfer protocol. It is a fundamental protocol used for transferring data on the internet. Now we have JSON. The one I explained is an open standard file format that uses human-readable text to store or transmit data in an array data types. Like as a human will understand what the person is trying to do, like in JSON format, in array type format. We also have XML, a markup language that defines how your website will look like whether you have your footer, your header, and everything. It is both human readable and machine readable. So conclusion, let me conclude this. So Ajax is used to make requests to the server without refreshing or reloading your page. It is fast and simple to use. It is, when coded properly, it will run faster and as secure as a non-Ajax program. Ajax also allows websites to reduce their overall bandwidth. Yes, because the MB or what Ajax use on is lesser. It makes a request in a fast and easy way. And the server loads by reducing the amount of the full page. So before I end, let me also give you, just understand what this is doing. So I'm trying to make an Ajax request to the About page. I don't want this thing to refresh or keep reloading. You will hear people like Daniel saying, should we be going home? So if I click on the About page, the About page will just appear without refreshing the page for me. If I click on any page, it will get it for me. It will make a request to the server and get me the information I need. So thank you very much.